On the agenda tonight, we're going back to 1984. We're going to be taking a look at Billy Joe Shaver, and he's going to be performing Bottom Dollar. Hello, Phil here from Wings of Pegasus, and welcome to another analysis video. First of all, thank you for all of the messages requesting this video tonight following the sad news that Billy Joe passed away yesterday. This performance is just under 3 minutes in length, so we will watch it the whole way through. I did a video on Billy Joe Shaver about 2 years ago now, where I did include a little bit of career information and background, so I'm going to take part of that video and include it in this one because it's good to have everything in one place. But without further ado, let's get Billy Joe and Eddie up on screen and see how they get on.
Bottom dollar, it looks like the end. Oh, how I hate to see you go. Bottom dollar, we've been the best of friends. We must have counted on each other 100 times or more. Oh, and oh my, yeah, how those eagles fly. Goodbye, bottom dollar, goodbye. Bottom dollar, and all your friends have gone. They've been blown on dance hall gals and wine. Bottom dollar, and if the truth was known, or you've been the bestest friend I'll ever find. Oh, and oh my, yeah, how those eagles, they do fly now. Goodbye, bottom dollar, goodbye. Goodbye, bottom dollar, goodbye, old friend of mine.
And there we have it. Billy Joe Shaver was one of those artists and people who the music industry really does rely on, and he's one of those pillars of the music industry, considering the fact that he wrote so many songs for other artists, and his songs were covered by so many other artists. We have artists like Waylon Jennings, Nancy Griffith, Elvis in there, Willie Nelson, Dickie Betts as well from the Allman Brothers. So there's a lot more names, but I won't have time to go through every single one. It gives you an idea of how one person, even though they might not be a very well-known name themselves across the world, Billy Joe Shaver was one of those who, of course, had his own career and was massively successful himself, but his songs just spread throughout the industry to multiple artists, and they all relied on that songwriting ability of just one person in order for so many people to then have the material to record themselves and put out albums themselves as well. Having said that, this song in particular, Bottom Dollar, was co-written with Danny Findlay, and it was originally recorded and released by Jerry Lee Lewis in late 1972, I think December of that year, and then Billy Joe released his version in May of the following year, 1973. Something that I want to draw your attention to is the fact that Billy Joe is actually missing 2 fingers on his right hand, so he's using that thumb in order to supply that rhythm when he's playing the guitar, and it's not necessarily something that you'll notice, because when you do play with your thumb, with the rhythm hand on that right hand, you do tend to tuck in the rest of your fingers. But Billy just uses that technique. Obviously, he can't play fingerstyle with that first and second finger, so he manages to work his way around playing the guitar, and it's something that happened. It was just an accident at a lumber mill. He was trying to make ends meet, getting a job there, and got his hand caught in a machine, and he also had an infection from that and was quite seriously ill, and fortunately managed to recover from that and taught himself to play the guitar without the use of those 2 fingers. So to show the technique that Billy Joe's using, he's just using this thumb on this right hand, playing quite softly, because the emphasis or the focus is on Eddie and the little runs that he's throwing together between chords, and his lead break as well. It's a lot higher in the mix from Eddie's perspective, but Billy Joe, the way that he plays with that right hand, the first and the second finger are not there, it's just to the knuckle, and then his third finger and his little finger are tucked in as well. It doesn't really matter whether you keep your fingers closed or you have them open. It's all down to your personal preference for playing, but you can hear I'm playing it softly because that's the way that Billy Joe's playing it, and you want it just to sit underneath the vocal, especially when there's another guitar in the mix. But if you wanted to, you know, you could go for it a little bit more, and if you have got your first finger, you can use the nail of that first finger if you want to get even more aggressive with it, to simulate the sound of a pick hitting those strings by using that first finger. But we don't have that here from Billy Joe for obvious reasons. So getting into the chords, we've got the G, into the B7th, into a C, into a G again, then we're into an A7th, into a D. And then we're back into the G. So there is a slight change in that progression when we get to the chorus, but you won't need any other chords. Those are the chords. So from Eddie's perspective, we've got some fingerstyle going on here, and the rough groove that we've got going on with the G into that B7th, and you can hear that little run up, and this is something that Eddie's throwing in all the time with various runs, ascending and descending between chords, and the G, the open A sharp B into the B7th, C, and we've even got this little hammer on to that second fret of the D string and into the G, and this is again little hammer on in your G shape. We then have the A7th, a little bit of sus4 in there, little finger on the third fret of the B string in order to get that, and then we get into the D. But here, Eddie actually does a little run up on the D string, second fret, third fret, fourth fret, to this F sharp, and he's still playing the D up at the top there. And then we have this, and then we're back into the G again. And a really cool little rundown there, and that kind of thing is thrown in there the whole time, from Eddie going from that D chord all the way down to the G. Also, he throws it in with the G chord. As soon as we get into the solo, Eddie's got this little line before we then get into it properly, but We've got pristine playing here all the way through. The technique is top quality. There's nowhere to hide on acoustic guitar, and we're nice and high in the mix here as well. And we've got this really bluesy lines going on here, and then that kind of thing. Again, there's so much personality and expression in the playing because of the way that Eddie's changing his playing dynamically. Like there, when we have this little pick on the 10th fret of our high E string, with that first finger, we're getting that note just to pop out a little bit more than it normally would compared to the slide up. It's looking at things in real detail, but that's how you get the expression in the playing, because we haven't got a great deal of over-the-top vibrato here. It's really nice and controlled. Considering that he is playing on the acoustic guitar, it's going to be more difficult to get these bends in here. It's going to take a little bit more effort, but once you've got this, you can hear the vibrato that he is applying, controlled the whole time. He's getting this guitar to really sing. He also breaks off into other keys. For example, when we go to the A and he slides up, actually I think it might be a bend, and that kind of thing. I don't think he plays exactly that, but it's not going to be an instructional video teaching you how to play the solo. But it's this kind of vibe where we're going to be in G for the most part, but then breaking off into the other keys like A7th when that A7th chord comes in. It gives such a great variation in the playing and just showing you a different sight on that journey rather than just sticking strictly to G major. The other thing to point out is that the songwriting here, we're not doing anything really complicated with chord progressions, and it's not really progressive. But this is the thing about great songwriting. It's all about the message of the song and the story of the song. And this is something that Billy Joe Shaver certainly had the ability to do, not only writing musically, but vocally, the way that he would deliver that vocal with that talking quality, telling a story and dragging you into that story that he is telling. You certainly do get the impression as well that he's writing about things from personal experience, and Billy Joe Shaver wasn't one of those guys that was born with a silver spoon in his mouth. He had to work hard just to make ends meet, like I mentioned before. And that's how the accident happened on his right hand, just getting odd jobs wherever he could do. And it wasn't until then later that he started to get some success with his songwriting. And that was Waylon Jennings that really spotted him to begin with. Just to take you through the chords for the chorus very quickly, it's much of the same. If you're just playing it straight without all of the runs, we just have the G twice, into the C, A7th, G, into D, back to the G. Like that. All the bass notes, those runs that you can hear, are being played by Eddie on his guitar. He's breaking out of his rhythm into, and then getting back into the chords after he's played the little runs. The A7th, run up to that G, even, into the D, G, and then whatever else you want to throw in there. But those are the bare bones, or at least the rough idea of what's going on there. Like I said, it's not going to be an instructional video, but if you guys want to play along, you can just employ that rhythm on the right hand as well that Billy Joe's doing, having this G, D, G, which will be the chords for the chorus. Billy Joe's story is a fascinating one as well. He left school early to help his uncle pick cotton, then he joined the Navy, and then after that, he then got a few dead-end jobs. One of those was actually trying to be a rodeo, so he gave that a go, but that didn't work out. He then hitchhiked, and he wanted actually to get to LA, but the only ride that he could get was going in the opposite direction. So he actually turned up in Memphis, Tennessee. And from the next ride he got, he ended up in Nashville. And that's where he got a job as a songwriter for $50 a week. And whilst he was writing these songs, Waylon Jennings happened to hear a few of them and really liked the material. So then Waylon put most of Billy Joe's tracks on Honky Tonk Heroes, which was a Waylon Jennings album. So he started to become a little bit more well-known, and Elvis Presley and Chris Christopherson, they actually started to record Billy Joe's music as well. And it's an interesting story. Of course, Eddie, being in the same circles as his dad, he's played with Willie Nelson and Guy Clark and Chris Christopherson and Waylon Jennings, so he supported those artists too. But Billy Joe, such an interesting character in his own right. In 2007, he actually shot someone in the face. I think it was outside a bar. They had an altercation, and I think Billy Joe said that this guy came at him with a knife, so he got his gun out and actually shot him in the face. The guy didn't die. It wasn't a fatal gunshot or anything. But after that event, Billy Joe actually went to turn himself in Austin, Texas. And when he turned up to the police station, nobody knew about it, this incident that happened, so he then got turned away because they didn't understand what he's talking about. So he then went to McLennan County Jail, where they knew about the incident and took him in. He was only there for an hour. He was actually released on a bond of $50,000, and that very same day or evening, he then performed at his scheduled gig that he had already had organized. But afterwards, it was judged that Billy Joe acted in self-defense, so he wasn't convicted of any crime. I just found it interesting that Billy, having gone through all that during the day and then being released, still then played in the evening. Just a through and through musician. And I think I should mention in closing that Eddie was due to start work on his solo material in 2001, but unfortunately in December of the year 2000, he actually died from a heroin overdose. And another case of a guy taken so young. He was only 38 when he died. And even just watching this video, you can see the amount of technique and ability that he had, the expression that's in there, the change in dynamics, changing from fingerstyle into flat picking. He had so many weapons in his arsenal. It would have been great to see where he would have taken that artistically and what direction he would have gone in as a solo artist. But it's great to have a look back at these two in full flow. Billy Joe showcasing his unique vocal ability, that delivery, but also that unique songwriting ability, which was just on a different level and hit a chord with so many people. Having a look at Eddie's playing as well, you can tell that the apple didn't fall far from the tree in that case. But thank you guys so much for requesting this video tonight. I hope you guys did enjoy it, and I will see you guys at the next one.